Hi, I'm Anqoinette Crosby coming to you from Charm City's Inner Harbor. It's an historic seaport, tourist attraction, and landmark of the city of Baltimore. Welcome to Artico. From tango in the library to the art of the tattoo. You don't want to miss today's show. Artico, art in your community. Did you know that the Argentine tango is alive and kicking in the Washington, D.C. area and has been for almost a decade? One of the places where you can come to practice your salidas for free is in our local libraries. Here's a little more about Tango Practica.
The Library Practica organizing group has been in place for about 10 years. We started in the West End Library in the DC library system, which just was welcoming to people coming in to have special events, and the idea caught on. So it continued there until the West End Library went into renovation. And then we moved in the Central Library, the Martin Luther King Library, and now they're in renovation, so now we're moving around through the neighborhood libraries when there's an available space.
Practica is held every week, and we come every week that we can, and it's most weeks.
And with the Capital Tangueros calendar, DC Tango calendar, one can find where the next one is. When the tango community started, it really was a new dance in the area, so everyone was looking for venues where it would be possible to do it, and places to practice and learn, as well as to have the more formal milongas that happen in the evening. The library was welcoming, and to be candid, the library is also free.
When I started learning tango, basically there was no tango in the United States. Maybe there were 100 people in the whole U.S. community, tango community. And now it's grown tremendously in the United States and all over the world. What makes Argentine tango unique is the fact that it is not at all choreographed. This is what differs it from all the other dances out there. It's a complete and total improvisation. It's a live conversation between two people. So there is a lead and follow technique, and based on that, people speak the same language, but they have a actual genuine conversation.
I started dancing tango about 12 years ago. I started because friends asked me out one night just to help fill up a table, and I got just bitten by the bug. The thing that gives me the most pleasure about tango is the communication and the connection with other people. You can go out to a dance and not know anyone, and they ask you to dance, and it's like having a conversation with them.
They have different styles. You have tango salon, tango milonga, and tango vals. I feel most pleasure when doing tango milonga, sometimes tango vals, because the rhythm is more pronounced.
Tango is an escape for me to get out of work, get out of study, so I can really have a moment to absorb music and interact with people and really express my emotions through dancing.
Tango is an international dance. It has a little bit of everything. It has a little bit of flamenco, a little bit of Afro, a little bit of Cuban. It is truly a dance of immigrants, a dance of international dance. So everybody finds something nostalgic in it, can relate to it.
Do you know what Frank Sinatra, women's suffragists, and Chuck Brown have in common? Well, they all spent time at the Lorton Prison Reformatory. Some stayed longer than others. Frank Sinatra just performed there. Today, their prison experience is preserved at the WorkHouse Arts Center in Fairfax County, a place where you can explore the arts as well as the history of this century-old prison, now turned into an art destination.
What's exciting and different about the WorkHouse Arts Center is there's something here for everyone. Everything from camps, art camps for kids and young people, to our history museum that focuses on the history of the workhouse in Fairfax County, as well as its ties to the suffrage movement in the early 1900s. We're a combination of visual arts, arts education, performing arts, and history. We host about anywhere from 100 to 120 arts exhibitions a year, usually about 100 to 200 performances of music or theater, as well as teach about 800 art classes a year. Right now we're in the McGuire Woods Gallery in Building 16 at the Workhouse. The show that's up right now is called Look at Me Now Again, which is our second exhibition of military artists' artwork.
All of this art is done by artists who've done art as art therapy and maybe as practitioners of art at some earlier point in their life. Pieces that I have in here are reflections of looking at myself and my service. I did 29 years in the Army as an artist. The first piece is a state of disrepair. Although we look normal on the outside, a lot of the things that we've experienced, we've had surgeries, we've been through traumatic events, and we look like everybody else, but there's a lot of broke stuff on the inside, and that's a reflection of that, the state of disrepair. I'm the first military veteran artist in residence at WorkHouse Arts Center. Every Saturday we have open art for veterans from noon to 3. We provide materials, we have art therapists on hand, they give them things to do, either guided instruction or unguided.
Another exhibition we had recently at the Workhouse was called Women Now, which focused on contemporary women artists throughout the country, including pieces that were comprised of placards and other materials rescued from the Women's March in Washington, D.C., as well as performance art pieces and drawing and sculpture.
Entrance to this facility almost at all times is free. There are certain events that there are specific events and they might have a price associated with them, but to come out here and enjoy any time, day or night, to go through the galleries, they're always open, they're always free to the public.
In addition to 6 artist studio buildings, galleries, and the W3 Theater, a big draw is the Workhouse Prison Museum. It's filled with memorabilia, pictures, artifacts, and stories about its famous and not so famous residents of Lorton. Stories like that of the courageous suffragists and the 6 months of terror they endured here.
They were deprived of basic amenities like toothbrushes and soap and toilet paper. Women who were released later described the food as uneatable. It was filled with bugs, weevils, various kinds of chaff from the field. Several of the women had gone on hunger strikes, and they were force-fed because the administration did not want them to die and become martyrs. They poured with a funnel milk and raw eggs directly in her stomach. And they did that 3 times a day. And of course, every time the tube was pulled out, it came out bloody. And the women to whom it was done described it as having like a bowling ball in your stomach because, of course, no digestion had gone on. What we are celebrating here is the sacrifice made by these women for us to obtain the right to vote here in the United States. It's sort of a pilgrimage place, if you will.
During the Vietnam protests, a number of people, later to become well known, were brought to Lorton for processing. They included writer Norman Mailer, philosopher Noam Chomsky, and pediatrician Dr. Benjamin Spock. And another interesting fact, as part of the prison's commitment to reform and uplift, outstanding musicians performed for the inmates from 1970 to 1975.
The first one who came by helicopter was Frank Sinatra, and he came and he brought Count Basie with him. Other ones who came were Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, Nancy Wilson, and a number of other top-named musicians of the time.
It is an experiment, and I don't know you've had a transformation of a prison into something as diversified as this.
I think one of the other things that's fantastic about the WorkHouse Arts Center are the fantastic community events that we run each year. Everything from a brew fest that brings in thousands of people to enjoy local Virginia craft beers and artisan distilled spirits, to a fireworks event every July and a haunted trail every October. So there's a little bit of something for everyone, whether you're currently a passionate fan of the arts or not.
The Avant-Garde Theater Company touts itself as being intimate, edgy, and affordable. And from our visit there, that seems about right. The company focuses on the classics from Shakespeare to Beckett. Artico spoke with Avant-Garde's executive director, Tom Pruitt. Our conversation came at the end of a successful run of Gospel at Colonus. It's a musical based on a play by Sophocles. We also looked ahead at an upcoming play, now in rehearsal, King Lear.
Avant-Garde Theater is now 27 years old. This is our 27th season. It was really started by a group of actors and directors who were passionate about classical theater and wanted to do it in a new way, do it in spaces that are accessible to people, that are affordable for people, and to do kind of revisionist takes on classical plays. Our home base is Arlington County, and we perform in various spaces that are controlled by Arlington County. The one that we are using this season is called Gunston Art Center, and we perform in the Black Box Theater at Gunston Art Center. It's called Gunston Theater 2. The idea is that we'd like to keep everybody close to the action, close to the plays that we're doing, so they can really hear the text and experience the emotions and experience the stories that we're telling. This season, we started off with a revisionist feminist take on Taming of the Shrew, Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, called Tame. It was by a local playwright named Jonelle Walker, and it was her very first play, so it was a world premiere. We then continued this season with Gospel at Colonus, which is a kind of a revisionist take on a melding of ancient Greek tragedy and gospel music.
He sings a song about wishing he had the eyes of the angel. In the Gospel of Colonus, I play what is called Preacher Oedipus. And the whole premise of this whole show is that during the course of a sermon at a Pentecostal church, the minister has chosen his text, the book of Oedipus, where he's going to talk about fate and how fate is sometimes inevitable. Everybody knows the traditional Oedipus, but this is very different because it does incorporate so many things from the Black church, the Pentecostal church, the music, the singing, and I think that the audience has loved it, every bit of it.
Our next production is William Shakespeare's King Lear, which is starring not only some of our favorite actors from our acting company, but a local legend, Rick Fauché, who is making what may well be, and he's announced that it will be his final role, final appearance on a professional stage.
I was planning to retire when he came to me and said, let's do this before you retire. And it took some thinking because I really did want out. I've got grandchildren now, my wife is retired, and I'm young enough still that I can sort of have another life outside of the theater. But when a role like this is offered to you, you don't turn it down. I'm scared out of my mind. This is a gigantic role, and it makes me feel alive to, on the one hand, be so excited about it, and yet on the other hand, be thinking, how am I going to do this? But the beauty of this work is taking on challenges like this and traveling hard, rocky roads. You don't want to do something that's easy. You might as well stay home. The thing about avant-garde is that you're going to a theater in a small space with limited resources, and you're still being told a story that's full of passion and richness. So what we lose in the ability to build an actual castle on stage and make you think you are in fact in ancient England, I think we make up for in storytelling, acting, and attention to the text.
You can check out King Lear at the Gunston Arts Center. It runs from May 25th through June 25th. It's last calls for the amazing infinity mirrors at the Hirshhorn. They remain on display until May 14th. And from May 24th through September 10th, 2017, the Hirshhorn will display the early works of German painter Marcus Lepertz. From flowers to faces to abstracts, human skin has always been a popular canvas. Chris, we are thrilled to be here. Exactly what is this place?
This is the Baltimore Tattoo Museum. We focus on electric American tattooing and the history of it. I've been collecting all this stuff from friends and people on the internet, and I'd say it's starting to come together. We're getting more vintage tattoo machines, more of the original paintings and flash sheets. Flash is all the designs on one sheet put out for a display that people could choose from. Every culture and every continent has had tattooing from the beginning. The Iceman that they found in the mountains frozen, when they examined him, he had tattoos in places that were indicative of acupuncture spots. And then when they actually did some scanning of his body, they found that he had some issues that he was probably using tattoos as medicine. There are some people that still do the traditional tattooing of the islands, like Maori and Japanese style, but most people these days use electric machines. Electric tattooing is from when Thomas Edison had the first patent for the first tattoo machine. Then Samuel Riley patented it for tattooing and brought us into the modern age of tattooing, where we use electricity for the machines to tattoo. These days you really need to be an artist. A lot of the older school tattoo artists from yesteryear weren't very good artists. They would be good at tracing. Tattooing has been art form for probably the last couple of decades. Before that, it was tattooers who traveled around with carnies and they had specific designs that they were copying off of other tattooers. But these days, most everybody wants something custom, so now you need to be able to draw it all up and make it pretty. People on Pinterest are bringing in designs and holding them up on the phone and saying, "Can you do this for me?" Before, it was stuff off the wall, but these days there's a lot of arrows and birds and feathers and infinities with anchors that say "don't sink."
How long can an intricate tattoo take you?
Depends on how big it is. If it's a full body suit, it could be many sessions of like 5 to 6 hours a piece. Something, say, maybe the size of a softball, you could probably do in about anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, depending on how plain or fancy it is. The things that make this art form unique are the fact that it's a moving canvas. It's always going to change, it's going to move with you. It turns when you turn, it bends when you bend, and it's always with you. It's like a moving sculpture.
Yayoi Kusama's infinity mirrors went on display at the Hirshhorn Museum in Washington, D.C. And since then, everyone's been clamoring to see what all the fuss was about. Recently, our show got its chance, and now we understand why it's well worth the wait. We chatted with the museum staff about this amazing exhibition and discussed coming attractions.
Yayoi Kusama is a Japanese artist who lives in Japan, who is now well advanced in her 80s, and from the 50s and 60s up to the mid-70s, she lived in New York, where she became one of the important figures of the avant-garde. These works are immense crowd pleasers, but we didn't want the exhibition just to be a crowd-pleasing extravaganza, but to highlight that the fact that these works have an origin in her previous work. With this rationale, we were able to convince her and to bring together via the studio, but also public and private lenders, a number of paintings and no less than 6 infinity mirror rooms. Her style is quite recognizable because she has almost branded for herself the polka dot as a stylistic attribute to her work. She also has obsessions, and that's also what it defines her and defines most great artists, is to have these obsessions that they cannot just, move away from. And these are two notions that come together, that of infinity and that of self-obliteration. She's one of the very few artists who has risen above the realm of the art world and has reached a public notoriety everywhere. She notably invented the infinity mirror rooms, rooms in which you would enter and were covered by mirrors, and you would see a reflection of yourself and infinity at the same time. It's a wonderful experience to walk into these infinity mirror rooms. They're actually very low tech when you think of it. It's just mirrors and a few lamps. And I think that's also part of the appeal. The technology is so simple. At a time when we have such complex technologies as VR and iPads and iPhones, and can almost beam ourselves across the planet, to experience infinity through just a box of mirrors is a true, a magical experience. People come and they take their selfie, they share their selfie. It's great to walk through the exhibition and just seeing the reactions that people have when they walk out of these infinity mirror rooms, because usually most of them smile. Well, the Hirshhorn has a very unique location. It's located right on the mall, and we cannot but think of the role of art in history, in society. And so I think our programming, the programming that is to come, reflects this consideration that we have of what is art's role. In May, therefore, we are opening an exhibition of a German painter named Markus Lüpertz. And Markus Lüpertz was born before the Second World War, but started painting in the early 60s in Germany at a time when Germany was redefining itself, hardly waking up from the horrors of Second World War. And what can painting say in those circumstances? And it's the first time that Lüpertz has a retrospective in the United States. And we're also having a series of projects with a great American-Japanese artist whose name is Yoko Ono. We will be staging a number of performances and works by Yoko all throughout the summer. It will be called the Summer of Yoko. In the fall, dedicating a full gallery to Mark Bradford. He's been working at addressing issues of race, gender, and history throughout all his work. And he's addressing that in his own way here on the National Mall. Place really defines a lot of what art is about. And so this is a project I think that has to happen here.
out today's show from the Baltimore Museum of Art, founded in 1914. And did you know its collection includes over 1,000 works by Henri Matisse? This is the largest public holding of his works in the world. Well, now you know. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode of Artico. I'm Anqoinette Crosby, and until next time, always remember to follow your art.
This program was produced by WHUT, Howard University Television, and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.